Hey, Wannacles, welcome to the next edition of Forum Bites. In this episode, we're going to be having another one-on-one. It's actually going to be with one of our global trainers. And we're going to be tackling the question about Gestalt and how do you manage it within your forum. Firstly, thank you very much for doing this video. Firstly, now, I know you, mate. I know I've done EMP with you, but you've got a lot of EO hats you wear. So how about you tell everyone who you are very quickly first before we get into our question?
Sure, Rod. Thanks. So my name is Cesar Quintero. I've been in EO for 9 years. I started as an accelerator. Accelerator doubled my business within 8 months. Then I went into moderator, forum chair, accelerator chair. Now I do forum trainings and accelerator training. So I wear a lot of hats in EO now.
So in other words, you've got a lot of experience in training, which is great. And just so everyone knows, I've known Cesar since we did the EMP days. We're also in the Forum Global Committee together, and we both love Forum. So in other words, that's why I thought this was the perfect person for us to talk to about a question that I know I get often, and I am sure that Cesar gets often, and it's around the concept of Gestalt. And it's not necessarily about what Gestalt is. I'm sure we all know Gestalt, sharing from experiences and so on, but it's primarily when you get the pushback, when you get the person who just doesn't seem to want to follow, or worse, doesn't understand its positives. So Cesar, tell me, you must have a lot of questions on Gestalt, mate, when those type of things. And
I do, especially as forum chair. This is one of our hot subjects.
There we go. So, mate, tell me, I'm a person who doesn't believe in Gestalt, but you know that I do. But let's say I'm a person who doesn't. So firstly, tell me, why is Gestalt even important in forum? Aren't we there to get everyone's opinions?
Gestalt mindset is about the story behind the advice. As type A leaders, we don't want to be told what to do. And whenever, we're the subject matter experts of whatever we do. So whenever somebody gives us an advice or tells us what to do, we typically, by nature, just get defensive and go like, no, I'm not going to do that. So that's why it's one of the cornerstones of forum. It's because we want to make sure that we have an environment that's safe and judgment-free. So what I say all the time is Gestalt mindset is sharing the story behind the advice, not the advice itself. Because when we share advice, it could be hollow advice. How do I know that you're giving me advice, and where does that advice come from? It's a rubber stamp of approval, like what I did when I was a teenager, and I always said, oh, I saw it on the Discovery Channel, and that gave me like a fake stamp of approval. So instead of doing that and getting hollow advice, what we want is a true story behind the advice. So it's not give the advice, give the story behind it, so that you can talk from experience, and it brings that story back to life.
And that's an important point that a lot of people, I think, forget about the Gestalt mindset within forum, about being the backstory. I know you and I were talking before about the presentation style, because as you know, I'm sure you get this, mate, like I do, where you do a presentation and they get to the end of the presentation. I've even seen this in some constitutions where it then says, if the member wants opinions, they can ask for them. And I've actually seen it within constitutions. Now, tell me, because you put it perfectly before, that is actually a contradiction to what a presentation actually is in the first place, isn't it?
And I think the presentation, the word is a little misleading, because a presentation is really a group learning activity. So what we do in forum is a peer-to-peer sharing group. So if I want to take a presentation and I want opinions, there's 3 things that happen there, right? The first thing is you're taking away from the purpose of the presentation. The presentation is about all of us sharing and understanding and learning from each other. So if I want all the attention on me, on how to me solve my problem, I'm being a little selfish. And that way, it's all about me instead of being about the group and the learning. The second thing that happens,
No, go, mate, go.
The second thing that happens is that it becomes a competition. Then if everybody is going to give advice and everybody's going to give opinions, then it's all about which opinion is going to win, which advice is going to win, which one is that person's going to take over the rest, right? And it becomes a competition because everything with us is competition, right? We're all entrepreneurs. And then the third thing is once they get that advice, what happens if it blows up? And the whole premise of forum is that trust and respect and to build a foundation and no judgment. So if I start resenting you for giving me this terrible advice and I took it, that puts us in an awkward situation as well.
Because so go on, mate. Because doesn't also the way you have to present, therefore remove people needing to get opinions? Is that correct?
Yeah. So there's a great way moderators can understand how to get good presentations, right? So when people are going through the parking lot, if the presentation's answering a why question, it's a good presentation. If it's answering a how-to or what should I do, or if a yes or no question, that isn't really material for a 5% presentation, right? So I'll give you a perfect example. I have this presentation all the time in my forum, and it's about me, struggling prioritizing health in my life. I've struggled with weight my whole life, and it's something I struggle with still. So if I were to come to my presentation and say, I struggle with prioritizing health, and I don't know what to do, and I need opinions. What that's helping and generating is a how-to presentation. So people can go around and say, well, I block time for my exercise, I do this, I prepare my meals in advance, I take a journal, and those are all examples of how to address my issue. But the reality is that the 5% presentation, the real presentation substance is, why don't I prioritize health? When we're thinking about how-tos, we're asking for advice. If we think about the why, it's more introspective. It's more about me. Why don't I decide to prioritize health?
Because it's something that... No, it does it makes total sense. So in other words, making sure the Gestalt protocol is followed is not only about the individual not wanting opinions. It's also not only about the forum members not giving opinions. It's also about the presentation and the coach, I suppose, making sure that they get to the true reason for the presentation, not just the superficial, as you just said, how to. Like, I'm sure there's going to be presentations about, I need to do X, I need your experience in doing it so I can see whether I'm making the right decision or not. That's
and there are different formats that you can use for that. There's brainstorming, subject matter expert. There's different ways you can address how-tos.
Yes.
And find different ways and brainstorming ideas.
Yes.
But the objective of the presentation is peer-to-peer learning. It's for all of us to learn from one subject, not for one person to get an answer.
Which is something which a lot of people within their forum have to understand. It's funny when you meet new members, and I'm sure you do this all the time in training, where they go, what do you mean I can't tell people what to do or give them advice? More to the point. It's something like, from my own experience, mate, it took me easily 12 months to actually practice this skill of not immediately going, do this.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
For me, it was definitely the hardest part of forum, but the biggest change I had as a leader as well.
Correct. That's, mate. I know that very, very well myself, mate, too. Cesar, thank you very much for the conversation we've had, mate, about Gestalt. It's the main highlights that I can definitely take away from this call. And it's funny how every time I talk to people on these calls, I learn something new. And I've been in EO now, about nearly 14 years, actually. Is that the Gestalt is a mindset, as you said. It's about peer-to-peer learning, as you said. But it's more than just the individual. It's how you present. It's also presenting the why of your challenge, and also just the main benefits of it that a lot of people sometimes forget. And the opinions sometimes you can ask someone's opinion outside the forum, but it is so important within the forum to protect that framework. And the main thing I took away from today is there's multiple ways of doing that, rather than just one way of defining Gestalt and doing it, which is outstanding, mate. So as you can see, the Gestalt question is a complex one, but an important one. Now, as always, if anyone's got any questions whatsoever, please leave it in the comments section. If you haven't subscribed already, I'm sure you now know what to do. Just go ahead and hit that subscribe button now. And as always, I'll see you in the next episode.